Hello, my name is Mariel Mulqueen, and I'm here at the edge of Lake Erie to do my Experiencing Natural Hazards project. Lake Erie is one of 5 freshwater Great Lakes associated with the state of Michigan. These lakes are known for their vastness and for their oceanic properties. Because they are the largest freshwater bodies of water in the world, they take on many of the hazards that would typically be associated with more tropical regions. Because of their huge sizes, the Great Lakes do suffer from a large amount of natural hazards typical of large bodies of water. As you can see, there is no clearly discernible end to the lake in sight. This is because, much like an ocean, this body of water is many, many miles wide. By observing this beachfront in Colchester Beach on Lake Erie in Ontario, Canada, you can see that the land is showing evidence of some of the hazards this region faces. For example, here's evidence of erosion that's occurred because of high tide, which swept out hundreds of pounds of sand from this beachfront. Many of the homes on this lakefront are required by IRCA, the Environmental Protection Agency of Ontario, Canada, to install rocks and breaker walls, like this one up here, to prevent the erosion of sand. Erosion is one of the biggest risks that this region faces. It's caused by flooding, high tide, and lake storms. Here we see evidence of a small drainage ditch which has been commissioned and installed by the residents of Colchester Beach. The idea of this drainage trench is to limit and control the amount of groundwater going into this embankment. The purpose of this is to prevent small landslides from occurring and stop erosion of the embankment here on Colchester Beach. There are several such drainage ditches throughout this beach region. This is a map documenting the many shipwrecks in Lake Erie. It's titled Graveyard of the Great Lakes and shows that both average family-sized boats along with industrial-sized freighter ships have all been sunken by natural hazards and storms on Lake Erie. To illustrate the magnitude of these lakes and why they have the risks they have, I've included this map which shows all 5 of Michigan's Great Lakes. As a fun fact, Lake Superior is the deepest, and by volume, it is the largest freshwater body of water in North America, and by surface area, the largest lake in the world. Now, perhaps the most disastrous natural hazard that the Great Lakes have ever suffered was the Great Lakes Storm of 1913, also known as the White Hurricane and the Freshwater Fury. It was on November 7th to 11th, 1913, and it killed between 250 to 300 people, sank at least 12 ships, though many more are suspected to have sunk, and 30 boats were crippled or damaged beyond repair. What formed the Great Lakes Storm of 1913 was that 2 separate storm systems came together and converged over the lakes, which created what we call a superstorm. To put it in perspective, it was comparable in size and wind speeds to a tropical hurricane. A northern cold storm front, already great in size, met with a southerly storm front which was warmer and came from southeastern U.S. This has been called a meteorological bomb, and you can see here from data in 1913 how it centered over Michigan. The Great Lakes storm was so huge that it wasn't just regions in Michigan that were affected, but all the Great Lakes land regions. So that means Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, and Ontario, Canada are some of the main regions, in addition to Michigan, that experienced some of the detrimental effects from this huge natural disaster. People across states felt it. For example, here is another image of boats and wreckage that was washing up on Lake Erie and Lake Michigan. For weeks after the storm, they were having wreckage come up on all different types of beachfronts, which is why it's hard to estimate the amount of ships that actually went down, because there just wasn't proper data back then or recordings of this storm. On a beachfront in Ontario, Canada, many bodies washed up that remain unidentified sailors lost at sea. Going back to Lake Erie specifically and the disasters it's felt during the Great Lakes storm of 1913, this vessel, the U.S. Coast Guard lightship Vessel 82, actually sank during the storm. So that really shows just how bad this disaster was, that it would sink a ship that was out there prepared to save other ships and built specifically for withstanding disasters. I mean, that just shows that this is a very hazardous condition. Close my presentation, I'd like to share a quote from a famous author who recognized the hazards and the disasters that the Great Lakes could produce. Herman Melville said in his famous novel Moby Dick in 1851, quote, "Erie and Ontario and Huron and Superior and Michigan possess an ocean-like expansiveness with many of the ocean's noblest traits. They are swept by borean and dismasting blasts as direful as any that lash the salted wave. They know what shipwrecks are, for out of sight of land, however inland, they have drowned full many a midnight ship with all its shrieking crew." This quote has always, sent shivers down my back when I read it, because it's true that for all their beauty, these lakes are dangerous. And it's important to remember that. And I'm happy I've been able to share this all with you. So thank you for watching my video. I look forward to seeing my peers.